Hello everyone, I am Lynn, and for today's reading we are going to hit on the history of Earth, angels, ETs, and even God. So stay tuned. Here we go. Alright, so the question, it says, it would be interesting to do a group reading on the ancient history of Earth, such as seeding and how and why these evil forces became involved here. So very complex topic, but we will dip our toe here, get our feet wet, and I look forward to the comments, and we'll see what kind of future posts evolve out of this post. So back to the beginning, or back to as far as what I can get a good understanding on. Thousands of years ago, Earth, it was an oasis. It's green, it's lush, it's gorgeous. And Earth also is absolutely mammoth, much larger than what we think, and we just inhabit this very small portion of it. And those in the know, they realize this, and it's why the logic of both the flat earthers and the spherical believers, they're both somewhat right. I see the Earth as being this huge glob, hence we get the word globe from the glob, and we just live on a small part of it. So if you have this enormous sphere and you just inhabit a little tiny part, that's why the rise over run doesn't always make sense. Sea level, all kinds of things. Again, completely different reading for a different time, but nonetheless, both are somewhat right in their own belief here. And really, this is a secret that they keep to themselves to avoid further questions and keep people just debating among each other, which we all know how divisive everything is. Tactics since the beginning of time. You keep people infighting, right? It's like this lie that they know, but in revealing the lie, it discounts so much of what has historically happened, such as previous societies, which we know have existed, structures like castles that were found and stolen. Yes, they were. These ancient kings, they didn't build this stuff. They stole it from old civilizations. And lands that have sunk while others emerged. We all know of Atlantis. I believe that is also true. Even the whole green agenda, which has found us on the premise that we actually have the power over the Earth's natural evolutions and climate variation. So they have a big dupery as far as that we actually can do something about what Mother Gaia here is already knowing what she's going to do. So all in all, Earth being this oasis, back to what I was saying, full of potential, it was used by ETs as a way to seed. And I see that Source or God or whatever name you want to put on this divine being, use these ETs as tools to implement the seeding process. And I'm somehow conflicted in my understanding in that I see this human lineage coming from ET sources, even though originated by God himself. And I also understand that these ET beings, they're interchangeable with what we think of as angels. So in the Bible, even, look at biblical paintings. You see these ships and you see all these different things in the sky. I get all of it existed at the same time. And sometimes it was an ET being and sometimes it was an angel in the sky, in the heavens, and people witnessed it and documented it. So in summary, my basic understanding of all of this is that God used angels and ETs as the right hand to create human forms on Earth. It originated from him, his energy, his influence, his divine guidance, but they used the hand of these other beings to actually do it. It's like God being the surgeon and his hands were these other beings. I know that sounds confusing, but just soak it in and think on that for a moment. And so both ETs and angels were present and physically did what the divine guided them to do. It was originated, and it was God, he himself. So then, there's these ETs that were oriented to do what we know as canines. It was a canine type entity out there, humanoid form. And there were other branches of ETs oriented toward the felines. We heard this feline race. Both were humanoid in shape, walked on 2 feet, had 2 arms, but it was more the characteristics that were a little off. And they struggled for power, and because of this, these two groups, they got into this battle, and rather than destroying Earth and the heavens and each other and everything else, before destroying this oasis, they were banished. And I get that they struggle for the power, and due to the inability to let their ego go, they were forced to leave by the angels. They couldn't get themselves together. They couldn't come to terms. They couldn't come to peace. They couldn't just each do their own different seeding and see where it evolved to and what happened out of it. They decided they were going to fight between each other. Again, everything since the beginning of time has been about divisiveness. And here they go again. They are fighting and battling. And so they were forced to leave. They had to leave this earth before they destroyed it. They were not going to be allowed. So then what happens? The reptilians version of ETs, they were oriented to what we know now as these reptilian race. They went underground and ultimately allowed to stay to protect Earth. They were not allowed to interfere unless they had permission. That was kind of a rule of them staying. They could go underground and hide, they could protect, they could stay there, they didn't have to leave, but they had to leave things alone and could not interfere unless people allowed them to do so. Worst thing that could have happened, as they completely manipulated everyone, but nonetheless, I guess that's part of the learning and evolution process. They played the long game. They allowed a very advanced civilization to form. We talk about Tartarian times and all of that. Again, completely different discussion, but nonetheless, these different civilizations that were very smart and brilliant, learned how to use resources available to live, heal, build, fuel their society, all that. They formed, and through the evolution of Earth and the shift into other ages, like back into the age of Aquarius now, certain areas began to freeze while others started to thaw. So as Earth evolves into these different ages, these different astronomical things, certain places heat up and certain places freeze. That's why we have what they call the Ice Age. But then that's why certain lands emerge and certain lands sink, because as the Earth shifts as a total unit into different ages, certain places become warmer while others freeze. Right now we're in Aquarius, so we're lit up here. But in a different time, different areas froze and thawed, all that kind of stuff. So these people, they were forced to leave during this time because the climate changed. They left their buildings and their markers of their society behind. The surviving reptiles, they came out of hiding and they took over. They claimed buildings for past structures, stating they were the kings and queens or the wealthy of the land. Again, whole big lie. They didn't build that stuff. They just came in and they took what was already there. Why do you think they don't have bathrooms and all this other stuff in these castles? Because that's not even what they were. They were powerhouses in Tartarian time. Again, another reading here. They alluded they were the chosen ones. They convinced people to follow, and most times out of fear, people did. People started to oblige, and hence they were given permission to continue because people just couldn't fight against them once these people started to rise into power. They mastered how to change language, they spellcast, forced people to be subservient to money systems, slave to other systems through fear and scarcity. When people opposed, there was war, lies, death, further manipulation, and that's how these evil people started to get their reign. They learned early on how to control people and continued on ever since. The tactics have evolved, but the premise remains the same. So they just might repeat the same type of thing, just in a different version of it. People, it's time to expose this. I mean, we are in a time where we're starting to finally wake up to all this now. And, you know, these people, they only have control and authority that you allow them to have. And they know that, but they just keep trying to force it and scare people into giving authority. Luckily, people are waking up more and more. And the more they see this, the more they lose control. And just as God guided the ETs and the angels back in the day, when they seeded Earth and rules and all these things were developed here, God's going to guide you through your interconnectedness. And that's the real threat to why they're trying to destroy the God gene. They're all this other stuff they're doing through the toxins in the air, the water, the land. You know, you can't have this. Now there's a thing, a gas stove in your house. I mean, really, people, come on now. Let's use our critical thinking. They are just trying to do whatever they can to control and fear and disconnect people from their true self, their true inner self, their true inner God. So don't let them in your body. Don't let them in your temple. Don't let them take your head space and reserve that space. You keep that for you. And that's all I have for this reading. Thanks so much for listening. Please hop on over to the blog. Join me there. A lot of cool things. And I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.